Hello and welcome to this webinar. This is Shane McGlynn of IRM UK, and today I'm joined by Chris Bradley of Data Management Advisors, who will be presenting on information management fundamentals. Chris will be presenting at our MDM and Data Governance Conference 2020, which takes place in London from the 2nd to the 5th of November, and presents a 3-day course on information management fundamentals with IRM in October. We welcome your questions via the questions pane. And now over to you, Chris.
Thank you, Shane. Good morning, everybody. Well, good morning if you're in the UK, and good whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. So my name's Chris Bradley. I'm a independent information strategist. I run a small company, Data Management Advisors. I'm the Vice President of Professional Development for DAMA International, and as such, that means I'm responsible for the CDMP certification and the DMBOK. And I'm also one of the fellows of DAMA worldwide. So there's some of my contact details. You'll see these in the slides when you get them. I've been in the industry 40 years now, actually slightly more than 40 years. Late 1979, I first started in the information management world. And a lot of the fundamentals that we knew back then are still true today. Of course, the technologies have changed, but some of the core principles remain enduring. There's a little bit of background about me. If you want to skip data management and talk about something else, this is my hobby, motor racing. So I'm a keen, what we call petrol head. So it's gathering dust in the garage right now. And this is actually one of the reasons why, if you've followed me ever on Twitter, you'll see that my Twitter name is Info Racer, because it's information management and motor racing. So data management. So this talk is about the fundamentals of information management. So straight away, let's have a look at what's the difference. Got the wrong slide. There we go. What's the difference between data and information? And this slide is called the information value chain. We reference this in the DAMA DMBOK, the Data Management Body of Knowledge, but actually it's been in existence since the mid-1970s, the information value chain. So we start, if we look at the like 1, 2 o'clock position, the first quadrant, we start with data. And data is it's facts, text, graphics, but without context. So if you imagined just a cell in a spreadsheet, but you didn't know anything about the column name, or you just said 10,000 feet, or 200 pounds, that's data. We don't know 200 pounds what, is that 200 pounds, that's what you owe me, I owe you, that's the cost, 10,000 feet, what is that? But as soon as we add context to it, it becomes information. So if we say your current altitude is 10,000 feet, it's now data in context, which is information. And if we have groups of information together, we say information in context, that is knowledge. So your current altitude is 10,000 feet, the mountain peak is 15,000 feet, your current heading is 70 degrees magnetic, the direction to the mountain is 70 degrees magnetic, the speed that you're flying at is 400 knots. The pilot has got a, what is this, blue shirt. But all of those are pieces of information, but there's a chunk of them that you're going to put together, and that gives you knowledge. And that knowledge is, watch out, you're about to drive into a mountain. But that's not the end of it, because we need to turn that into action to get insights, to get to look for valuable outcomes, and turning that into action, getting outcomes, that gives us wisdom. And this thing, the information value chain, this has been around for donkey's years, and it's if you're doing any of the certifications, and we'll briefly mention the professional certification, the DM, the one that's based on the DM box, the CDMP certification, we'll mention it at the end. It's important to realize that there is actually a difference between data and information. But to a large degree, people use the term synonymously. They kind of frequently mistakenly say data, information, it's the same thing. So what are the disciplines? The disciplines, as we've defined them in the data management body of knowledge, are these. There's 11 of these disciplines of data management. There are a number that we call the core disciplines, which is what I'm going to major on in the in this little talk. At the center, data governance is there, and it's no mistake. It's not just a diagrammatic representation, showing how clever are we at putting a picture together and putting governance at the center. But data governance absolutely does have an impact on every single one of those data disciplines. So data management is much more than just big data or management information or analytics or records management. And data management is, without a shadow of a doubt, it's a professional discipline. And that professional discipline means that you need to have awareness, training, education. So what then are the core disciplines? So the core disciplines of data management are these 6 ones that we've got highlighted. It's not to say that data architecture or data security or data integration and interoperability are unimportant. No, not at all. But if we've got to prioritize some of them, this is what we do. We say, data governance, modeling, quality, metadata, business intelligence, and reference and master data. Those are the core topics. And in fact, in the professional certification exams, there's a higher weighting, a higher number of questions given to these particular areas. So these are the 6 core areas. In the 3-day class that Shane mentioned, we go into all 11 areas in considerably more detail, of course, but in 30 minutes, we're just going to skim the surface. In addition to those data management disciplines, there are a number of things that are called the business environmental elements. And what this is doing is just recognizing that data management doesn't exist in a little glass bubble, in a little glass showcase on its own. Data management exists as part of the entire business. It's not in its little ivory tower. It's certainly not just about technology. And so for us to make data management successful in our organization, we need to be aware of these kind of things. And as an example, culture, organization and culture is one that we talk about in a lot more detail in the classes, because we need to understand what are the cultural preferences, the management styles, the organization structure of the organization that you are in, because even though you might be in the same industry as another company, your culture, your management decision styles are going to affect how you would put together, for example, a data governance strategy. So as a very simple example, you might have one company that is very centralized in terms of its decision-making approach, and you might have another company in exactly the same industry that is very federated in terms of its management and decision-making approach. And you cannot take the governance structure of one and directly apply it to the other. If you did, it would be an abject failure. But if you wanted to learn something from one and apply it to the other, then you must be aware of what that sort of cultural style is about. Roles and responsibilities at the very bottom this is all about understanding what are the activities, what's the skills, the competencies, the capabilities that we need, rather than just saying, here is a badge, here's a badge that says you're a data architect or you're a data owner. Because in one organization, what they call an owner or a steward isn't the same. It isn't what I would expect a data owner or a data steward to do. So we must have clarity on what those roles and those activities really mean, rather than just having the badge. So those will be gone into in a lot more detail in the detailed class itself. So a very quick look now on these core topics. So data governance. I'm sure everybody on this call has heard at least of data governance, if not, participated in a data governance initiative. A few things to be aware of about data governance. Fundamentally, with data governance, what we are trying to do is to determine how our organization's data assets are maintained, who can do what to what data, and how they can do it. That would be the not very well structured sentence, explaining what data governance is about. A really good definition of data governance is that it's the management of data for the benefit of all stakeholders in the organization. So a couple of key points here. Data governance is owned by the business. It's not owned by IT. We certainly should not be seeing IT running a data governance initiative. But IT is a very important stakeholder. In fact, in the DMBOK, we have a role that is called custodian. Sometimes the synonym of business system owner is used. So IT is a very important stakeholder, but it sure as heck doesn't own the data. And it's a big mistake if you see a data governance initiative being run by IT. Also, data governance, it's not a project. I'm sure many of you on the call have undertaken project management training, and you'll probably know that projects have got beginnings and projects have got middles, and even government projects in IT have ends. So projects are not ongoing activities, whereas data governance is something that is an enduring business capability. I was once asked by an executive in a utility, how long have we got to carry on doing this data governance project, he said. And I said it wasn't a project, it was a capability, but you need to carry on doing data governance only for as long as you want quality, reliable, accurate, trustworthy information. When you don't want that, you don't need to have data governance anymore. So data governance, it's got a role, in all of the disciplines of data management, and it spans the whole organization. We might, of course, start our initiative in one particular area, but it needs to expand to the whole organization. Another one of the core disciplines is data quality management, and I'm sure everybody has heard the phrase data quality. Fundamentally, what we are trying to do with our data is we're trying to make it fit for purpose. That is the real kind of mantra with data quality management, making sure that the data is fit for purpose. So unfortunately, we find in lots of businesses and lots of organizations that the data is created for purpose 1, and it should be okay for that. And maybe we even knew about purpose 2. And if we were really lucky, we might know about purpose 3. And we can design approaches to make the data appropriate for those purposes. However, the issue usually arises when the data is used for purpose 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and we never even knew that the data was going to be used for that. And somebody picks it up, uses the data and goes, what the heck, what a mess. And that's because the data was not fit. It wasn't designed for those purposes. But nonetheless, that's not an excuse to say we have to have requirements, excuse me, we have to have requirements for every single possible use in the history of time. That's an impossible ask. So what we need to do in that case is to provide some data quality indicators or some metrics that go along with the data. So metaphorically, it's like the food labeling. So whilst this bottle isn't food, quite often we see sort of food labeling, and we can look at that and we can then determine whether or not we want to consume it. Is it fit for our purpose? Okay. And we have with data quality, we have a number of what are called the facets, or generically would be called the facets, but we call the dimensions of data quality. And you can see them in the table up in the top right. So there's the dimensions of data quality that the DMBOK defines. And they typically, oh, I can't do the annotation when I'm zoomed. They typically are getting more rigorous as we go up these. So we might just start with, we might just start with validity, but then we get more and more and more detailed. And with the little graph in the bottom left, what we're showing here is that we've got a continuum that if we've got the x-axis is effort and the y-axis is confidence, then we put more and more and more effort in. But initially, we start with what we're calling kind of semantic accuracy, and then ultimately, correction, we start with syntactic accuracy. It's got the right integrity, the referential integrity, the right validity, etc. But then we move up into meaning and accuracy. So that's called the semantic accuracy. And part of your data quality strategy or an approach is to determine how much effort, how far on that continuum is appropriate for us, because having slightly less accurate data but quicker may be more beneficial than having perfect data but that takes a lot longer. So that's kind of data quality. Master and reference data management is the next of the core disciplines. And with master and reference data management, what we're doing here is we're trying to identify the shared core common data that is used by more than one business area in the organization. So shared reference and master data belongs to the organization, not to one department, one application. So we have some of the core subject areas that we commonly see, things like customer, product, employee, geographic area, vendor. Okay, those are examples of what we see as master data in many areas. And then reference data typically manifests itself as code sets, country code, product status code, order status code, gender code, material, asset condition code. And these things, whilst they appear simple, they've got a profound impact. And bizarrely enough, when on the detailed reference and master data management class, and then when we do this, in the 3-day fundamentals class, we do a little exercise that shows the impact of an error on transactional data, an impact of one error on master data, and the impact of one error on reference data. And in fact, the impact of the reference data error is the greatest of all. So Reference and master data is about these core things. We have terms. You might have heard of the golden record. That's the best effort for that particular thing, the best effort we've got for that customer or product. There's many styles of implementing master data and holding master data in solutions. And 4 very generic styles are mentioned in the bottom right, where we can have, if we have everything in a hub, that's called a repository-based architecture. If we have what are called the core business fields in the hub, that's a hybrid-based architecture. If we have only the identifiers in the hub, that is called a registry architecture. But if we have none of them in a hub, but they appear, quote unquote, appear as if they were in a hub, it's like views, but it's kind of views on steroids. That is called a virtualized master data architecture. And there's different use cases, different advantages of each of those different types. So the next major discipline is data modeling and design. And data modeling, not only do we talk about this a lot more in the Information Management Fundamentals 3-day class, but we've got 2 separate classes, an intermediate modeling class and an advanced mastering data modeling class. This is one of the greatest topics of all. So data models, if you just remember anything from this little talk, data models are not just for database design. So if you remember that RSPCA advert from years ago, a puppy is not just for Christmas, a data model is not just for database design. Data models are used for communicating with the business, they're used for data integration, they're used for business intelligence. We can even use data models in the big data, AI, machine learning world. So please do not believe that big data and the term schema on read equals we don't need data models. That's absolute rubbish. The data models are still useful. It's just that we do not generate our systems based on the data model. So that's one of the key things with data models. Metadata is the next of the core topics, and metadata, metadata management, is all about managing what frequently is called the data about the data. But interestingly enough, metadata is actually data, but the important thing is it's context-dependent data. So in the context of a photograph, and I'm sure you've all got on your iPhone or whatever, your other smartphone, you take a photograph and you can get the geographic location of the photograph. So in the context of the photograph, then the image is the data, but the geographic location represents some of the metadata. But in another context, the delivery van that's outside my door right now, delivering something to the house, then the same geographic location is data. Okay, so metadata, it's good to think of it as being data about data, but it's actually so much more than that. And as we can see in the table on the bottom left, we can get metadata from a plethora of sources, from different types of systems and technologies, but also we can get it from the brains of our business colleagues. So some types of metadata, like the description, the business rules, etc., we can't auto-magically capture that from a tool. We've got to get it from our business colleagues. Another one of the big, big topics is data warehousing and business intelligence. And this is the area in the DMBOK that we pay some reference to big data architectures. So with data warehousing and business intelligence, conceptually, the very sort of high level diagram of what we're talking about with a data warehouse, for example, is pulling data from our data sources, from our OLTP systems, putting them through some form of data integration. And there may be things like a staging area and cross-referencing against our master data and lookups and cleansing, then loading it into a data warehouse. And that data warehouse might be a normalized Inman style warehouse, or it might be a dimensional Kimball style warehouse, and then running different types of analytics on top of that. And that's ranging from traditional reporting and analytics through to predictive analytics, scorecards, data mining, etc. And the diagram at the bottom, which we can't see when we're zoomed, is the DAMA definition of a conceptual warehouse and big data architecture. And we can see the bits in green at the very bottom are describing some of the core stages with the big data world. So those are the core disciplines. And we did say in this 200-mile-an-hour talk, we would very briefly mention professional certification. So DAMA has the CDMP professional certification, which is at 4 different levels. The first 3 are by examination. And some of the benefits of CDMP, there's a variety of individual benefits, continuous professional growth and recognition. And we're increasingly seeing the demand for this qualification in some job advertisements. But organizationally, there's benefits as well, to benchmark the capabilities of your data management team, demonstrating commitment to international standards, and raising the importance of data management. It demonstrates to the rest of your colleagues that we're following, in my department, we're following kind of the best approach, and we're kind of getting the highest level of certification that's internationally recognized. And if you go to cdmp.info, and we'll put the URL up in about 2 slides, we can see some of the details about the different levels of the examinations. Sorry, the different examinations that are required for the different levels. So associate level requires 1 exam, practitioner 3 exams, master 3 exams, but they all require this data management fundamentals exam. And this data management fundamentals exam has got this breakdown, and you'll see that the most important components in the fundamentals exam are the 6 key disciplines that we've just done a 200 miles an hour whistle stop tour through. In addition to this, you can actually have a DAMA certified specialist designation as well. So if you take just the governance, just the quality, just the modeling exam, you'll come out with an approved DAMA certified qualification. So if you want to know more about the certification, please go to that URL, cdmp.info. And the full course, the 3-day information management fundamentals course, which has got the opportunity for you to take the exam at the end. That's separately payable, but if you want to do the CDMP exam at the end, we provide the capability for you to do that at the end of the final day. That's the next running of it. Shane, you're probably going to tell me that I've either got that right or got that wrong in terms of the dates of the next run of this full live streamed information management course. So over to you, Shane.
The dates are perfect, Chris.
Thank you. I've just got a coffee delivered.
How wonderful. Just in time for a few questions, please, Chris.
Indeed.
Okay, wonderful. You said that there are 11 disciplines of data management and showed the wheel. Is
Uh-huh.
there always 11?
Okay, now that's a good question. So I'll put that one up. There's the 11 disciplines. I've highlighted the 6 core disciplines. So if people have followed DAMA and the creation of the DMBOK over the years, that you'll remember that in version 1 of the DMBOK, we had 10 disciplines of data management. This is version 2, and version 2 was released, most people saw it from kind of early 2018. And version 2 had this one, data integration and interoperability, added. It wasn't that that was a brand new thing, but it was that between 2009 and 2017, more styles of data integration came along. The little bits of data integration had been included in reference data management, sorry, master data management, in data warehousing. There was a little bit in data architecture, but because we had new approaches, new techniques, new technologies, the need to integrate had increased quite dramatically. There'd been things like web-based integration, services-oriented architecture, microservices. The DAMA organization introduced a new discipline. It's not beyond the bounds of possibility that when we do the next release of the DMBOK, and we're working on it already, that's in my portfolio as the Vice President of Professional Development, it's not at all inconceivable, but some of the things like big data, data science, artificial intelligence, they might be spun out into a separate discipline. So the answer is it's not rock solid. It's not rock solid, stable, stationary, but it's very slowly changing.
Thank you, Chris. One more question, please.
Sure.
Does your Information Management Fundamentals course cover CDMP preparations, and can I take the exams after that?
Yes, so I mentioned that incredibly fast, so it's easy to have missed that. So this Information Management Fundamentals course, it most definitely does cover the preparation for the data management fundamentals. In fact, so much so that we run practice questions. Every section ends with a trial questions for the CDMP, and on the final day, on the fourth day of 3, that's a data quality error. On the 3rd day, we have the opportunity for people who, if they want to register separately, because it's separately payable, not everybody wants to take the exam, then we provide the what's called the proctoring for them to be able to take that exam at the end of the 3rd day. So yes is the answer.
Thank you, Chris. And one last question, please. Hi, as data governance lead in my current organization, I found your webinar particularly insightful. Can you please suggest what is a federated model of governance delivery and why it is better or maybe not?
Okay, well, so thank you for the comment, first of all. Why is it better or not? There's no way on God's earth without knowing any more I can say whether it's better or not, because a federated model in an organization that was a very highly centralized organization would be a disaster on toast waiting to happen and to be grilled with cheese on it. It's kind of like, it would be utterly the wrong thing to do. So a federated data governance model has a very thin, just a very thin layer of central coordination, but fundamentally it pushes the ownership, the stewardship down into the different parts of the business. And this would make sense if there's a degree of, I don't want to say autonomy, but if there's a non-trivial amount of separation of the types of data and the decisions and the processes that are made on the data, you know, from one business division to another business division to another business division. However, if you find that there's a big overlap, so that's meant to be my Venn diagram sort of overlap, if there's a massive overlap, then a truly federated model really wouldn't work, because where it overlaps, we want to manage that on behalf of the whole organization. So I know I'm going to end with saying it depends. I'm trying to think of a better, it's totally beholden on the nature of your organization and the degree of potential, not isolation, potential sort of separation from one bit of the business and the way it uses the data versus another bit of the business. I hope that made sense as an answer. Shane, if you could follow that, then it definitely did.
Absolutely, it made sense. Thank you, Chris. And one last, what I imagine is a quick question, please. Do you have a recommended certification focusing on data governance?
I do indeed, and it's not going to be a surprise. So this was the thing that I was again mentioned super quickly, that from October last year. My word, last year seems like such a long time ago. So from October, in DAMA, we introduced, and this was on great demand, you know, sort of questions just like this, actually. So we had some very major worldwide corporations saying, we like this CDMP, we really like the CDMP, you know, we really want to get people to do the CDMP, but if we're doing the full CDMP program, you need to have the fundamentals exam and then 2 specialist exams. And that is the gold standard. That would be what somebody should attain to be a very good, you know, well-rounded professional data management person. But if for right now, what I want to do in my, you know, in my organization is I want people certified to have an approved certification for data governance, then you can do the DAMA certificate in that specialist topic. And so you can do that in data governance. You can also do that in quality. You can do that in data modeling, metadata. And so without a shadow of a doubt, I would say do that. You will get a certificate, a DAMA approved professional certification in data governance, and you will get the electronic badge from the Open Badges Foundation. And this isn't just a graphic, this has got metadata, it's verified in the blockchain. It's what all of the professional certifications these days are using. So absolutely, Shane, this is the answer. Do the DAMA Data Governance Specialist certification, and you will get a qualification in governance on the basis of that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. Thanks to everyone who joined this webinar. And once again, thank you very much, Chris.
Cheers. Thank you, team. Goodbye.